Welcome to all of you to the Kyoto Prize Symposium kickoff presentation. We're honored by your virtual attendance. My name is Ray McEwen, and I serve as chairman of the Kyoto Symposium organization here in San Diego. We have some fascinating information for you today, which you will soon hear and see about our laureates and about the Kyoto Prize itself. So that you know, we also have a virtual wine tasting at the end of our presentation and a raffle. So feel free to pour yourself a glass of wine along the way. I just want you to know that I have done that because I want to be prepared for the later wine tasting notes that we'll share with each other. And I trust we're not driving today, so it'll be safe to do that. And you may well need fortification for the meeting that comes after hours. Let's start by reminding ourselves of why we do this, why we support the Kyoto Prize Symposium here in San Diego. And I used to say we have three reasons, but I would add a fourth reason in our current circumstances. The first is civic. For those of us, at least here or in San Diego, though some of you are indeed watching from afar. We know here that it is an incredible honor for San Diego to be chosen as the only host city in North America for the Kyoto Prize. The Kyoto Prize has grown in stature over the last 35 years and rivals really every other prize of every kind, every category, everywhere. As you know, the Nobel Prize is awarded in two cities, or celebrated. One is Stockholm and the other is Oslo. The Kyoto Prize is celebrated in three. In Kyoto, Japan, in association with the Kyoto University. In San Diego, in association with the University of California, San Diego, and Point Loma Nazarene University, and in Oxford, England, in association with the University of Oxford. We could not be in more prestigious company. So here in San Diego, we want to remain a host city. We know that it denotes us, that it elevates us. So we join together to remain worthy of this honor. Our second reason is philanthropic. Other than our annual events, the money we raise from you and the money given to us by the Inamori Foundation goes to scholarships and to our hosting universities and grants. We have awarded over $3.5 million since 2004 in scholarships to hundreds of students and in grants to our local universities. Our individual Kyoto Prize scholarship recipients have been awarded to remarkable young people from San Diego and Tijuana. And as you know, when they speak to us, as they have in every year until this one, they give us hope. They inspire us. That's especially affirming these days because we need the hope they exemplify. And if left with them, I would say our future is bright. Our third reason is the advancement of knowledge. When the laureates come here to San Diego, they meet with our own scholars, and most importantly, they meet with our students. The laureates teach and they lecture. They inspire. Some of those students have been so moved over the years that, modeling what they have seen and heard from those laureates, they've gone into those same fields of science and technology, or into those same pursuits in the arts and humanities. And from those students who enter those fields just might come in the future a cure for a disease that plagues us now, or might come a leap in technology that lights our cities or cleans our oceans, or might come the discovery of the closest planet to us with life, or might come the next grand opera. Great scholars who teach and lecture do in fact change the world. Our fourth reason, and this one is new, is friendship. I know we have over 100 folks on our call today, but in years past, we would all have been together in person. And over the years, we've grown to like each other and enjoy each other's company. So we miss that part especially, and so we hope that we can do that again soon. Let me now introduce our board, many of whom are present with us now. Kim Becker, Chief Executive Officer of the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority. Dr. Peter Farrell, founder of ResMed. Rodney Lanthorn, formerly president of Kyocera International and now enjoying semi-retirement. Kate Leonard, international tax partner, Hutchinson and Bloodgood, and honorary consul here of Japan in San Diego. Hank Nordoff, sitting in Idaho at the moment, I believe, and CEO of Banyan Biomarkers, and leader of many other noteworthy biotechs here in the past. Dennis Osuji, landscape architect and president of the Japanese Friendship Garden. Dr. Mary Walshock, vice chancellor of UCSD, who runs all extension programs and quite a few other things too. David Doyle, senior counselor in the intellectual property group of Morrison Forster. Dr. Magda Marquette, life sciences entrepreneur and co-founder of Alma Life Sciences. Paul Robinson, land use, environmental and governmental law attorney and vice chair of the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority. Our founding board member is with us too. Malin Burnham, chairman of the Burnham Foundation, founder of the Sanford Burnham Previs Medical Discovery Institute. But my favorite of his 1,000 credentials and titles and awards is what it says about him in Wikipedia. Malin Burnham, American sailor. I don't know how you could beat a credential like that. Our honorary chair is aware of us as well, Dr. Irwin Jacobs, co-founder and former chairman of Qualcomm and chair of the board of trustees of the Salk Institute. Dr. Irwin and Joan Jacobs have done much to improve San Diego and our world. Thank you for all that you have done and continue to do, particularly your support of the Kyoto Symposium organization. So thanks again to all of our board members. Now let me introduce you to my friend and fellow board member, Dr. Mary Walshock, Vice Chancellor of our host university, the University of California, San Diego. Mary?
So I have to begin thanking you for the promotion, Ray. I'm an Associate Vice Chancellor for Public Programs, which is why we and our team are so delighted to be a partner with the whole Kyoto Symposium event, which we launched last fall with the Chancellor, and a commitment on the part of UCSD to be a lead partner. And I think I'm going to do my threes, if that's all right, Ray, because I think there are three important reasons, and they're going to be manifest in this short time we have together. The first is the association with the extraordinary ideas and contributions of researchers and intellectuals to our public life, as well as to the advancement of knowledge. And it's manifest in the laureates themselves, but I'm also going to be delighted a little later to introduce our faculty hosts who have stunning credentials themselves. So connecting a research university like UCSD in a deep and meaningful way with Kyoto is a fantastic opportunity. But a second reason we're so pleased to be involved, and it's one of the issues you raised, it's about scholarships. The university, like Kyoto, the Kyoto Symposium family, and Dr. Inamori, care about the future, care about the pipeline of talent that is emerging in the arts and humanities, in technology, and in basic science. And I think my colleague and Associate Dean Ed Abeda is with us today. He runs some wonderful programs for pre-college youth interested in getting academic preparation in the very disciplines the Inamori Foundation honors, the humanities, science, and technology. And we were able this past year to support over 40 young people in residential hands-on pre-college opportunities at UCSD, thanks to the Inamori Foundation. And third, like you, the university is committed to public understanding of science and advances in the complex fields that many of our laureates are recognized in. And so we are delighted to also be a part of the public lectures. And as many on the screen know, now that all of these are being offered at the UCSD campus, we're capturing them for television, UCSD TV, which means even though we may have an audience of 200 or 500 in an auditorium, we may have 10,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 who will access all this information via YouTube and many of the other platforms where people access UCSD TV. So welcome everyone. I'm pleased that two of our key deans are with us today. Cristina Della Coletta, who is the sort of steward and shepherd of the faculty hosts on an ongoing basis, and in the arts and humanities. And Dr. Al Pisano, Dean of Engineering, who many of you already know, who has actually, Al and I had the privilege of being with Ray and some of you on this screen in Kyoto a couple of years ago for the big event there. So we're all here because we love this work and we hope it has great value. And so what we're going to do is intersperse talk and video for 20, about 20 minutes here, and hopefully stimulate in you the kind of enthusiasm we feel for this upcoming event and for the fact that it is here in our community, benefiting both UCSD and the community in general. So why don't we go to the video, which introduces what is the Kyoto Symposium.
The annual Kyoto Prize ceremonies take place each November in Kyoto, Japan. The Kyoto Prize is Japan's highest private award for global achievement. It is given each year by the Inamori Foundation, which was founded in 1984 with the initial private funds of Dr. Kazuo Inamori, founder and chairman emeritus of Kyocera Corporation. Human beings have no higher calling than to strive for the greater good of humanity and society. The Foundation awards 3 prizes annually in the following fields: advanced technology, including electronics, bio and medical technology, material science and engineering, and information science; basic sciences, including biological, mathematical, earth and planetary sciences, astronomy and astrophysics, and life sciences; and arts and philosophy, music, arts, painting, sculpture, craft, architecture, design, theater, cinema, thought, and ethics. The Kyoto Prize Symposium is held in San Diego, California, to share the ideas of prize laureates across the globe. The annual 3-day symposium kicks off with a celebratory gala evening attended by many of San Diego's corporate, philanthropic, and academic leaders. This prestigious event honors the most recent Kyoto Prize laureates. Following a ceremonial procession, the gala audience learns about the laureates' extraordinary achievements and then hears briefly from each. Another highlight of the evening is hearing from select recipients of the Kyoto Prize scholarships, which are funded by gala proceeds. These impressive high school students from San Diego and Tijuana have been inspired to pursue a college education in one of the 3 Kyoto Prize categories. At each year's gala, talented local musical artists pay tribute to the laureates with outstanding performances. San Diego's ongoing relationship to the Kyoto Prize through the symposium and scholarship program is a source of pride for our region. The philosophy of the Inamori Foundation aims for a future with the proper balance between science, technology, and spiritual maturity, with the goal to contribute to the peace and prosperity of humanity. This is the core mission of the Kyoto Prize.
Well, I'm hopeful our technical difficulties are behind us, because we're now going to move towards an introduction of James Gunn, the astrophysicist who is was awarded the Kyoto Prize and is being hosted by Brian Keating. And all of this will be on video. And I want all of you to know about Brian. He's going to tell you about James Gunn. But Brian is a young rising star at UCSD. He has a distinguished professorship in physics and with the Center for Astrophysics and Physical Sciences in the Department of Physics at UCSD. He attended Brown, Stanford, Case Western Reserve. He has numerous patents And in 2005, he was awarded a presidential young scientist early career recognition from the National Science Foundation. I think what's really fun about Brian is he's very interested in public understanding of science. He wrote a book called Losing the Nobel Prize, and it has been selected by every organization you can imagine over the last couple of years: Amazon, Science Magazine, Science News, Today Show, and even Forbes magazine, recognizing the quality and the value of this book. Brian is also a fellow of the American Physical Society, which is very important at a university like ours. But I think also, bespeaking the values that Professor Inamori represents, Brian is an honorary member of the National Society of Black Physicists. He's committed to building the science talent pipeline. And with no further ado, let's go to Brian and James Gunn.
James Gunn was born in 1938 in Texas, and even as a small boy, dreamt of becoming an astronomer. He also had a strong interest in building, and as a child, he learned to use tools related to his father's work as an exploration geophysicist. He had already built several telescopes by the age of 12, and in high school, he moved on to build a photographic telescope with a solid-state electronic drive. After earning a bachelor's degree at Rice University, Dr. Gunn received a PhD in astronomy and physics from the California Institute of Technology in 1965. Starting in 1992, as a professor at Princeton University, Dr. Gunn led a team of scientists from across the US and Japan to develop the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, or SDSS, the first three-dimensional digital cosmic map. Through their innovative use of semiconductor image sensors, fiber optics, and state-of-the-art instrumentation, the team created what is considered one of the most successful projects in the history of observational astronomy. The groundbreaking SDSS Legacy Survey has cataloged 230 million celestial objects. SDSS has also led to numerous other breakthrough discoveries, ranging from the distribution and chemical composition of asteroids in our own solar system to the large-scale structure of the universe. Astronomers usually choose one of three paths: theory, observation, or instrument building. Dr. Gunn is a pioneer of all three, publishing many original astronomical theories, gathering data on the universe, and designing and building instruments, including his work in building the first Hubble Space Telescope camera and leading the construction of the Prime Focus spectrograph. Dr. Gunn is now the Eugene Higgins Professor Emeritus of Astrophysical Sciences at Princeton University. His message to the next generation is, be brave and honest enough to know yourself, know your strengths and limitations, then build on the former and work on the latter.
Astronomer Jim Gunn has revolutionized our understanding of the universe in countless ways: as an observer, observing how galaxies form, as an instrument builder, and even applying new theories. He looks at the universe through eyes that harken back to the very first astronomer to use a telescope, Galileo Galilei. Of course, the Sloan Digital Sky Survey gave astronomers a new opportunity to peer into the heavens previously unknown and at a scale that dwarfed previous surveys. It's kind of amazing to think about how much we learn from an instrument that's not very large by current astronomical standards, and certainly comparable to the impact that instruments such as Hubble have had. Has Jim's impact really been felt? And I think he really inspires people, astronomers and non-astronomers, public alike, to develop and rekindle a love of astronomy from the application of his technology, the sensors that he's employed, and the wonderful techniques and technology that he has uniquely been responsible for. And I think his performance and his inspiration to me in particular has been the fact that he combines an observer with an instrument builder with a theoretician. The work that he's done understanding the epoch of reionization, the Gunn-Peterson test, in addition to the work that he has done in the field of instrument construction and observations. There's really no one else like him. And he's been a role model, not only to me, but to literally thousands of astronomers around the world, and had an impact as great as almost anybody. So I think it's fitting that the Kyoto Prize in Physical Sciences goes to Professor Jim Gunn of Princeton University, where he has been for many decades and will continue not only as a researcher, but an educator, educating people, some of whom he's never met in person like me, but he's had a dramatic influence on me incomprehensibly throughout the universe, even though I do hope to meet someday in person. I believe that day will come soon, and I look forward to many more successful, I would say successful observations, theories, and instruments coming out of Jim and his proteges that he's inspired, like the many millions of galaxies, quasars, and other objects that he's studied. So too may he continue to influence young astronomers, older astronomers, and the public at large. Thank you, Jim. Congratulations once again.
We're going to acknowledge our next laureate, Ching Wang Tang, who is a chemist, and his introducer and host is Darren Lepomi, who is a professor in our School of Engineering. Like Brian, an energetic and rising star who received his degrees at Harvard and Boston University. He also was a recipient of a Young Investigators Award from the National Science Foundation. And he has been very involved in YouTube. Like Brian, who works a great deal with Reuben H. Fleet Museum and educating, developing programs for young people and for young scientists, Darren has put his lectures and many of his workshops up on YouTube. He has 5,000 followers, and he's had over 500,000 visitors. So when you talk about the citizen scientist, Darren is a fantastic example of that. And we were so pleased that he agreed to be the faculty host for Dr. Ching. So let us now, I'm sorry, Dr. Tang. So let us now look at the video on that awardee.
Chin W. Tong was born in Hong Kong in 1947. As a child, he was curious about how things work and enjoyed making and repairing tools. He became interested in science in high school and earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of British Columbia. Dr. Tong received a PhD in physical chemistry from Cornell University in 1975, after which he joined Eastman Kodak as a research scientist. Organic electroluminescence, also known as organic EL, is a phenomenon in which certain organic materials emit light when voltage is applied. Prior to Dr. Tong's pioneering research, organic EL devices had very low efficiency and required very high voltage, making it difficult to commercialize this technology. In 1987, Dr. Tong invented a new EL device structure by stacking two carefully selected organic materials, which enabled high-efficiency light emission at low drive voltages. His pioneering work led to the practical use of organic light-emitting diodes, known as OLEDs. Compared to LCD screens, OLEDs are thinner, lighter, superior in contrast and color, and offer ultra-fast response time for functions such as refreshing and on-off switching. Today, we see widespread commercial application of OLEDs in computer displays, smartphones, televisions, and lighting. Dr. Tong is widely recognized as a leader far beyond the field of organic electronics. He holds more than 80 patents, and in 2018 was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. In addition to continuing his research into new possibilities for organic EL technology, Dr. Tong devotes time to training young researchers. His advice to the next generation is, to be successful, do something you are good at and do it with passion and perseverance.
Good evening. My name is Darren Lapomi, a member of the faculty at the Department of Nanoengineering and Chemical Engineering program at UC San Diego. It is my pleasure to introduce Professor Ching W. Tong, the 2019 recipient of the Kyoto Prize in Advanced Science and Technology. So Professor Tong is currently a professor at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology and an emeritus professor of chemical engineering at the University of Rochester. He was born in 1947 in British Hong Kong. He holds a BS in chemistry from the University of British Columbia and a PhD in physical chemistry from Cornell in 1975. He had a long and extraordinarily productive career at the Eastman Kodak Company between 1975 and 2006, and was at the University of Rochester from 2006 onward. He is the recipient, as we are celebrating here, of the Kyoto Prize in 2019. He is a member of the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2018. He is the winner of the Wolf Prize in Chemistry in 2011. He was inducted into the National Academy of Engineering in 2006, and he has been a fellow of the American Physical Society since 1998, and was recently awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award from the University of Rochester. This is Professor Tong's Google Scholar page, and you'll notice two papers here. He's actually being awarded the Kyoto Prize for the discovery of organic light-emitting devices. What this paper basically shows is that if you take an organic emitter and you sandwich it between indium tin oxide and magnesium and silver electrodes and apply a voltage, you can get light to come out of this organic semiconductor. And the organic light emitting device is the basis for much of commercial organic optoelectronics applications in consumer electronics, IT devices, also automotive applications, and devices for very high efficiency indoor lighting. I have always been quite impressed by the fact that Professor Tong had not only the invention of the OLED under his belt, but also the invention of the OPV, or the organic photovoltaic device. If you look now, devices that incorporate organic semiconductors, so pure organic materials in the red here, and perovskite hybrid organic materials in the red and yellow here, these are solar cells that are not as efficient as the solar cells you might find in high efficiency satellite or aerospace applications, but in terms of cost per efficiency, they're actually very, very good. And Professor Tong has a place in the history of the development of such devices. This is a photo that was taken at a lab in the Danish Technical University in Denmark, where they took organic photovoltaic devices and they printed them like newspaper and then applied them to very large areas. So this work is still ongoing. I was actually there and saw them do this, and it's really just a testament to the impact of Professor Tong's work. As long as I have your attention, I might as well tell you a little bit about my own work and how it was influenced by Professor Tong. So I study the mechanical properties and mechanical toughness of organic semiconductors of the type developed by Professor Tong. We're interested in particular in making solar devices for developing world and disaster relief and military and intelligence applications, and also in integrating these devices with biological tissue. So in summary, I would like to congratulate Professor Tong for his being awarded the 2019 Kyoto Prize in Advanced Technology. Thank you.
Last but not least, we are going to be introduced to the laureate in the arts, Ariane Minushkin. And we're privileged to have her faculty host, Alan Havis, here with us on the screen, who's going to speak a bit about her work and its significance after you briefly see the video. But I have to brag about my colleague, Alan, as well. In the sciences, you can be an NSF scholar, young and win all kinds of recognition from scientific associations. But in the arts and the humanities, awards from the Kennedy Center, Guggenheim's, the Rockefeller Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts are the peak achievements of someone in the arts and humanities. Alan is a professor of theater. He's also a playwright, has authored 19 plays, many of which have been performed across the United States. But what I find particularly enjoyable, since I'm an opera buff, Alan, is the fact that he has collaborated with our Pulitzer Prize winning music professor, Anthony Davis, on 2 operas. And he's also in the process now of composing, I can't remember, Alan, if it's a play or an opera, on the Golem of La Jolla. So I will invite you to watch the video, and then Alan, you just jump in right afterwards and give your observations about the significance of Minushkin's work, please.
Ariane Minushkin was born in 1939 in France, the daughter of a film producer and an actress. In the late 1950s, she attended Oxford University, joining the Dramatic Society and the Experimental Theatre Club. In 1959, she formed the Theatre Association of Students in Paris. In 1964, during a decade of dynamic cultural, societal, and political change, Mrs. Minushkin founded Théâtre du Soleil. For more than 50 years, the group has continuously produced internationally acclaimed masterpieces, often with historical and political themes. As a writer and film and stage director, Mrs. Minushkin's innovations to theatrical expression have been globally influential. Since 1970, Théâtre du Soleil has been based at the Cartoucherie, a former armaments factory on the outskirts of Paris. Their productions are applauded for their intense physicality, cultural heterogeneity, and focus on collaboration, both between performers and with the audience. Mrs. Minushkin advocates that theater is an art form which should be collaboratively perceived, created, and enjoyed. She has gathered diverse talents and fostered their artistic mentality and creativity by exploring and developing their latent skills and imagination. The performances by Théâtre du Soleil have been compared to a festive meeting ground where all kinds of people encounter one another. It could be said that Théâtre du Soleil embodies the ideal of public theater. Under Mrs. Minushkin's direction, the group has found inspiration in theater, music, and dance in globally diverse traditions, such as circus, commedia dell'arte, and Asian theater traditions like Japanese No, kabuki, bunraku, and Indian kathakali. Mrs. Minushkin's theater invites us, her audience, to understand the times we live in. She has said, theater deals with politics. If you comply with the orders of the powers, you will someday realize that you were wrong. You will find that your fear of being criticized by others has put you in an unthinkable situation. I believe we must constantly be vigilant about cultivating the proper attitude. Her advice to younger generations is to have love, trust, and confidence.
I really love Zoom. Certainly, you have to count on one hand the names of acclaimed experimental stage directors who have transformed world theater over the last 75 years. Ariane Minushkin's name would grace the top, along with Peter Brook, Jerzy Krasowski, Joe Chaikin, and Anne Bogart. Her work is indomitably physical and spiritual, curiously architectural and often paradoxical. But above all else, her beautiful spectacles always challenge her audiences to pay attention to life itself and our temporal human flesh. She is both cerebral and of the flesh. Minushkin is a force of nature in Europe and one of France's greatest living artists. It is with deep regret that few of our American playhouses have been touched directly by her genius. Nonetheless, her influences run deep and wide. Protecting human rights, preserving justice, and the elimination of poverty are three of her many goals. She is the gladiator who fights hypocrisy and privilege. If you were to attend a Minushkin production in Paris or Tokyo or New York, during one of the intermissions of a 4-hour show, you might meet her and her ensemble serving you soup and bread, and the food was always as good as the dramatic acting. Did I say 4-hour show? Les Esrides was a 10-hour spectacle based on 4 Greek plays, a performance epic. The 1992 New York staging required over $1 million to remove vehicles and weapons from the Park Slope Armory in Brooklyn to transform into a stage. The powerful show was also featured in LA's 1984 Olympics. Another rare Minushkin work in New York was Les Ephémères, which premiered in the 2009 Lincoln Center Festival. The work was centered on the river of time. The Village Voice characterized Minushkin's theme as to go with the flow, to accept the fact that time is the great devastator. Tout passe, says a French proverb. Everything passes, everything breaks, everything sinks. The performance was split into 2 3.5 hour sections, and it went by breathlessly. Minushkin was born in 1939 in a Paris suburb. As a child, she felt strongly that she would have a lifetime career in film, according to New Yorker magazine, Cynthia Zarin. Ariane told Zarin, I thought I am growing up in a cinema family, but on my mother's side, they were actors. For various reasons for that, I had a blind eye. This changed at Oxford, where she joined a student production of Bloomsday and I Am a Camera, directed by filmmaker Ken Loach. Minushkin's theatrical life echoes her company Théâtre du Soleil. Until 2017, when Ariane sold her house, she lived in Montrouge outside of Paris. Now she has a small, modest flat near her theater. Perhaps the most core insight into her aesthetic and theatrical philosophy comes from this 2017 quotation. In the beginning, I thought about the nature of collaborative work, but I didn't know it would go so far. I didn't know that out of the improvisations, we would create plays that came when I began to see trust within the particular talents of the actors. I suddenly realized that if you ask them for a situation, a space, wonderful characters appear. Minushkin has been interested in the theater and the idea of theater and the troupe of theater, much like Théâtre du Soleil, that theater itself is the play. This concept is the underpinning of her Oscar-nominated film in 1978, Molière, which is 4 hours long. Last March, before COVID precautions hit our campus, we showed Molière to a large crowd of film and theater students, and they loved the work. Minushkin has been profoundly preoccupied by the realization that the personal and the political are one. Her explosive 1789, the revolution must stop at the perfection of happiness, addressed the way in which the outcome of the 1968 uprisings in Paris mirrored the painful disappointments of the French Revolution. A Room in India from 2017 can be viewed as a series of questions. What can I do? What should I do? In one of her many scenes that expose current international events, and with film footage of a bloodied Syrian boy sitting in an ambulance, a dying prisoner turned out not to be tortured, but is an actor rehearsing a person who is tortured, suddenly stops the rehearsal and asks the terrorist, "Who are you? Who am I?" He then tells his masked captors, "Let's admit we know fucking nothing about the Middle East," and excuse my French. Minushkin attended the University of England studying psychology before returning to theater. She continued theater arts at l'École Internationale des Théâtres Jacques Lecoq, where in 1964 she founded with her fellow students Théâtre du Soleil, situated in the former Paris munitions factory. Her theater continues to create social and political critiques of local and world cultures. Her shows are performed in found spaces like barns, abandoned factories, and empty gymnasiums. She does not like being confined to a typical stage, pampered by the plush upholstery of red seats. She feels that theater cannot be restricted by a proscenium and protected by the fourth wall. When audience effete or ordinary enter Minushkin production, they will find her with indifferent actors preparing makeup, donning wigs, and getting into costume. And then the magic comes alive. Her company creates works utilizing physical theater and improvisation. There is a striking influence of Asian theater techniques and the power of Asian epic theater. Théâtre du Soleil was founded as a performance collective in the midst of cultural turmoil sweeping Europe at the time of French President Charles de Gaulle. Minushkin has developed her own dramatic works like the politically themed 1789 and numerous classics like Molière's Don Juan and Tartuffe. Between 1981 and 84, she translated and directed a series of Shakespearean plays, and she also directed many Greek dramas. It's worth noting that 28 years ago, in 1992, she condemned the Euro Disney theme park outside of Paris as a cultural Chernobyl. In 1994, while I was an artistic fellow at Camargo in Provence, I had the good fortune to train north to Paris to see the Perjury City or the Awakening of the Irenes. Seeing a Minushkin production in person is entering a happening where the audience merges seamlessly into a creative entity. While most celebrated as an uncompromising stage director, she is also praised for her films. 1789 was filmed from her live production and brought her international fame. Molière received an Oscar nomination. In 1987, she was the first recipient of the Europe Theatre Prize. And 11 years ago, actress Liv Ullmann announced that Minushkin was the winner of the International Ibsen Award. Minushkin also received the Goethe Medal in 2011. In conclusion, I was honored as UC San Diego's faculty host to meet her several times in Kyoto last November. And one morning at our hotel, I approached her breakfast table where she invited me to sit and meet her grandchildren. Over black coffee and croissants, I discovered how charming, how witty, how loving, and how unassuming a great artist can be.
Thank you very much, Alan. That was very nicely done. I recently produced the 51st anniversary of Woodstock. I think Minushkin would have been quite at home on that stage and at that festival, it sounds like. Well, if the reasons I mentioned to you earlier about why the Kyoto Symposium organization is important and hopefully important to you, just enumerate those again just briefly. A civic hope to remain a host city for the Kyoto Prize because what it does for San Diego. A philanthropic hope to continue supporting our Kyoto Prize Symposium scholarships and grants to our important institutions. And a quest for new knowledge that our laureates inspire when they come to San Diego, with perhaps one or more of our attending students someday going on to receive a Kyoto Prize. That's possible because of your ongoing sponsorship. You've done it historically. We hope you'll continue to do that. We hope you'll introduce us to others who might consider that. Because without those sponsorships, we would achieve purpose number 4, which is being friends. We would not be able to carry out the other 3, keeping the prize here, advancing knowledge, and engaging in philanthropic activities of scholarships. So we depend on you, and we need you. And we look forward to a continued relationship with you. We have another concluding movie before we go to wine and a raffle. So if we can look at the Kyoto Prize Inamori Foundation overview, that would be helpful.
名の受賞者の方々は、長年にわたり科学あるいは芸術の発展に尽力され、社会を潤いのある素晴らしいものとするために貢献され、夢と平和を与える努力を続けてこられました。その偉業に対し、深く敬意を表したいと思います。
In retrospect, I think I made this discovery and followed through with it for years because I always wanted to do experiments and was not afraid to find new ways to do things.
So these surveys open a history book on the universe. If we can study them sufficiently well, we can see what galaxies were like 5 billion years ago, 10 billion years ago. And that is an enormous thing for the human spirit to know how the universe came to be that made us part of it.
Je le remettrai intégralement, j'ai déjà verbalement remis, au Théâtre du Soleil, c'est-à-dire à tous mes amis et collègues qui portent cette entreprise sur leurs épaules et dans leur cœur depuis, pour la plupart, des décennies.
Well, thank you for that video. I'm always touched when in Kyoto, watching the children's choir. I don't know that they've changed a note in the last 7 years I've seen it, but I hang on every one of those notes, and they always just do it beautifully. We have some raffle winners illustrating some beautiful diversity. So let me just tell you who they are. We have Mauricio Lopez. Thank you. Good luck with the wine we're about to send you. Yuko Kaifu is about to get her bottle of wine. And Tuve King. Tuve is a beautiful Scandinavian name, so I hope the Tuve enjoys her wine. And if you have captured a glass, we're going to spend just a few minutes celebrating life, which is enhanced by celebrating wine. Our board members have received a bottle of this. It's called HD3. It's made by Hourglass, but it really does not matter which wine you may have poured, because wine is experienced in several ways. We experience wine with 3 senses and 6 different steps. And if you have a glass of red wine, this is particularly applicable, though many of these steps can apply to white wine. So the first thing we experience in a glass of wine is visual. How does it look? And you do that 2 ways. You hold it up, and I'm going to turn off one of my lights so I don't get as much reflection as I might otherwise get. And you look at its opacity, and you look at its rim. So at the top, you'll see here whether there's a separation between the atmosphere and the wine itself. A poorly crafted wine might have 2 or 3 different colors there. That wouldn't tell you to put it down necessarily, because it depends on how urgent the need is to drink it. But it would suggest to you that it might not be as full-bodied as it otherwise might be. The other is the degree of translucence or opacity, and that would depend on the wine. Some wines are going to be a little bit see-through, called some Pinots are certainly like that way. White wines most certainly are that way. But this one is not. This one you could not get a truck through. It would be stopped halfway through because of it's just thick and viscous. The second thing you do is happens when you swirl it, and you'll notice as you pour it back down whether or not there are legs that stick to the side. A wine that's viscous and well crafted will tend to have legs. And that will simply tell you that the wine you're about to experience is going to be a bit bolder than it would be if it did not have those legs. The next test, and this is important, I want you to swirl it like this. And within less than 3 seconds, I want you to bring it up and breathe it deeply, just like this. For me, half the enjoyment of wine is that. How did it enlighten? How did it inspire your olfactory senses? Did it? Because that is so many layered in terms of his experiences. So I would encourage you, never drink a glass of wine without doing that step first. And there's 3 ways to taste it. We've been through 2 looks. We've been through one smell, and that's 3 senses, or 3 experiences of senses. And the next 3 are tasting it. Now we have 3 palates, a front palate, a mid palate, and a back palate. And wines differ on which palate they activate. Now I'm pretty sure I know how the board members who have this wine are going to experience it, but others of you will have wines very different from this one. So when you sip this wine, think of it as a small bolus of wine that you hold on the front palate for just a moment, move to the mid palate, and then move to the back palate, and then swallow it. On one of those palates, it'll be more active than the others. I'm going to do it with this one. Now I move that little bit of wine across all 3 palates. When we get to the discussion of which wine this is, I'll tell you which palate was most activated for me. It does not particularly matter relative to quality and your preference of the wine, which palate is most active. But if you had to take a survey, the wines that have a strong finish or a more active back palate tend to be the ones that many people prefer. Now, this next one, depending on what wine you have, will either be pleasant or unpleasant. It's called unlocking the tannins, which you do by chewing it, truly. Pretend it's a peanut butter sandwich, take a small bite and chew it, and then hold on to your seatbelt because it really makes a sparkle. Now, when you've swallowed that, and I know what wine Mary is having, her eyes are probably rolling at the moment because when it's got an active tannin, that really unlocks the tannin and it'll really enliven it. The last step is the most important step of all. You drink the wine. You just have another smell, a sip, and enjoy the wine. Our lifespans are short. We think we plan. God laughs at those plans. Things happen that we do not anticipate. But one thing we can rely upon, and has been so for thousands of years, a good glass of wine pretty much makes the whole world better. Certainly our laureates have made it better, and we're most appreciative of the contributions they've made to their fields of endeavor. We're appreciative of the contributions you have made to the Kyoto Symposium organization and will continue to make. We need you. Remember that. We appreciate our board members, whose names I shared with you earlier. Thank you, Juanita, for putting this together and hosting it for us, and Olivia and Aaron. Dr. Mary Walshock, thank you for co-hosting this as well. And Alan, I look forward to listening to an opera of yours soon. Enjoy your wine and have a great evening. You'll need the wine for what comes next. Mary, anything from you? Okay. Thank you, everybody.